Welcome to Book of Recaps. Today, I'll discuss the thriller drama Monolith. Spoilers ahead, be cautious. The film opens with a futuristic car ad for Monolith, boasting its status as the world's safest car with unique features, unbreakable glass, robust tires, a sturdy body, and more. An AI-connected smartphone app controls these features. A virtual assistant, Lilith, aids user interaction. In the next scene, Sandra, a mother, uses the AI car to take her 2-year-old son, David, to his grandmother's house, conversing with Lilith along the way. Sandra's husband, Carl, a busy pilot, couldn't join them. The advanced car can detect passenger weight. Carl calls from the airport, expresses love, and leaves as someone knocks. David gets fussy. Sandra gives him her smartphone. Later, she stops at a gas station, changes diapers, and buys snacks. While paying, she spots someone trying to break into her car. She calmly locks it using the smart app. Sandra, engrossed in the situation, doesn't notice David's separation. Panic sets in as she searches and screams in the supermarket. She eventually finds David with the same 3 ladies from the washroom. She swiftly secures David in the car's vault mode, finding relief. Continuing her journey, Sandra calls childhood friend Jessa. Jessa reveals she's at a hotel near the central airport with Carl, devastating Sandra, realizing her friend's affair with her husband. The thickening fog impairs Sandra's road visibility. She encounters no settlements or vehicles but spots an isolated electrical substation, briefly inspecting it before moving on, leaving only wildlife. Suddenly, she loses focus, colliding with a deer that startles David, who she soothes with her smartphone. She checks on the injured animal but forgets David in the car. Unattended David, playing with the smartphone, accidentally activates the car's vault feature via the AI car app without Sandra noticing. The feature shields passengers from harm. Sandra grasps the direness, attempting to open the door, but it's too late. Locked out, she struggles to communicate with David to disable the vault mode, but he doesn't comprehend and continues playing. Her panic escalates, leading her to shout at him, startling David, who drops the smartphone beneath his seat. Sandra realizes the Monolith car's features are more than just ads, they're real. Even smashing the window with a rock doesn't leave a scratch. Regretting her choice over Tesla, she decides on another approach. She retraces her steps to the electrical substation, jumps the fence and calls for help, but no response. The empty station holds no workers. Sandra enters a room, discovering essential items, a flashlight for the night, and a large wrench to break the car's glass lock. Exiting the substation, Sandra spots a pursuing wild animal. As it attacks, she seeks refuge on the car roof. Her attempts to scare it fail. Desperate, she uses the wrench, triggering an alarm that scares the coyote away. Sandra then notices David struggling to breathe, but manages to calm him, and he eventually falls asleep. Exhausted, she drifts to sleep on the car's hood. The following day, Sandra awakens to bright sunlight and rushes to check on David. He's weak from hunger and dehydration. The car's feature shows rising temperatures, compounding Sandra's isolation dilemma. She decides to seek help, despite the risks of leaving David alone in the sweltering car. She walks the long journey, knowing it's her only option. Sandra finds a river, quenching her thirst and freshening up. Afterward, she presses on and encounters steep hills. After miles of walking, she stumbles upon an old airfield with a jet. Inside the Monolith car, the rising temperature triggers the emergency cooling fan. Meanwhile, at the abandoned jet, Sandra finds alcoholic drinks, gasoline, a lighter, and spare airplane tires. She drinks some alcohol and collects these items. Using gasoline, she sets the spare tires ablaze in an attempt to signal for help. Sandra also fills the gallon with river water. She then retraces her steps to where she left David. Sandra rushes to the car, finding David weak and red, unresponsive to her calls. The car's temperature has surged, rendering the cooling fans useless. She pours river water from the roof, but it's futile. Desperate, she attempts to break the window with a wrench, but it exhausts her. Sandra tries to start a fire to trigger the sensors, but it only stops the cooling fans to prevent smoke entry. Fatigued, she collapses and has a vision of herself and Carl at the accident scene a year later. She realizes her mistakes, but still blames Carl for David's death. Sandra awakens to a noise, discovering it was all a dream. The coyote from last night reappears. She tries to climb onto the car's roof, but the scorching temperature forces her underneath. The coyote bites her leg, revealing it's after the deer. As the coyote drags the deer away, the car starts rolling backward, held in place by the deer. Sandra escapes from under the car, attempting to stop it. Despite her efforts, the car keeps moving, nearing a precipice. Fortunately, a small rock stops it just in time. Staring from the cliff, Sandra recalls the cartoon with a diamond obtained by breaking a safe. She contemplates pushing the car down to unlock the doors. Aware of potential consequences, she grabs the wrench, removes the obstructing rock, and intentionally sends the car over the cliff with David inside. In midair, the car's built-in AI activates, recognizing the fall and adjusting its features to ensure a safe landing for David. It calculates gravitational pressure to keep the car upright, protecting David. As designed for accidents, the car deactivates the vault mode, and the doors open upon impact. Sandra descends the cliff, finding the car miraculously undamaged. She takes David out, cools him down, and decides to leave quickly due to his fragile condition. Before she starts driving, the entire system reboots. With Lilith's assistance, Sandra activates the car's extreme off-road mode and ascends the cliff effortlessly. She then heads for the hospital. In the movie's final scene, Sandra and David arrive at the hospital. David, connected to multiple tubes, worries Sandra until he opens his eyes and calls her mommy for the first time. The movie concludes with Sandra's joy.